All righty. Good morning. Self-care. What is self-care? What is this concept of something that we all think about all the time, but we don't essentially do to ourselves? Such an important term. I actually Googled it and I wanted to share with you what it said. Self-care is an activity that we do deliberately in order to take care of our emotional, mental, and physical health. Although it's a simple concept in theory, sometimes it's something that's definitely often overlooked. Good self-care is a key to improved mood and reduced anxiety, which we could all agree is something that we definitely need in the space that we're in right now. This is why I am so incredibly excited for this meeting of Extraordinary Minds, the Self-Care Edition. I'm Stephanie Bohardt, the Director of Business Success for Revolution Mortgage, and I have an amazing group of ladies with me today. And I want to get them introduced so we can really jump right into this, because this is such a great topic that I think that we all can take a lot of notes from and cues from some experts to make sure that we are living as healthy as we can within the four walls of our house. So I'm going to start with Dr. Lori. She is joining us today as a clinical health psychologist, an award-winning keynote speaker, author, and a national healthcare consultant. Good morning, Dr. Lori.
Good morning, Stephanie.
We have Casey Bordas, a board-certified holistic health practitioner, certified master herbalist, and a functional medicine specialist and owner of Holistic Family Medicine right here in Myrtle Beach. Hi, Casey.
Hi, Stephanie. Good morning.
Good morning. We have Chelsea Navasel, yoga and fitness instructor for over 14 years, and she is the owner of C Yoga. Good morning, Chelsea.
Morning.
And then we have Christy Geiken, our business development manager for Revolution Mortgage, but a guru in all health and nutrition. Hey, Christy.
Good morning.
I have been lucky to look up to all of you ladies, and I'm really excited to get some of your advice on all of this idea of self-care. And I want to kind of just get started. I'm going to ask you guys a few questions and cue it up, and then you kind of can give me some comments on what you think this self-care means. But Dr. Lori, we have been talking about how our lives are just turned upside down right now. We are working, schooling, and doing all activities at home with actually no end in sight. None of us know exactly when this is going to end, and that is really concerning. What does that do for our mental stability?
Well, as human beings, we are really crummy at navigating our way through uncertainty. We hate uncertainty. We live our life as if somehow each step along the way is planned and we're in control of it, and we have our busy lives and we're moving along, and then something stops us in our tracks. And the something right now, of course, is this coronavirus, but it could be anything, any trauma, tragedy, disappointment, struggles that anybody's going through that stops us in our track and reminds us that life is fragile and not predictable. And the strategy for navigating through these uncertain times is to really begin to develop some good coping strategies to deal with uncertainty, learning to find control in a place where we can control something, but recognizing that the uncertainty of what's going to happen next with the virus, with our lives, with the timetable is out of our control. And I think the sooner we can harness that concept, the easier it is for us to navigate through this with better anxiety, better coping, and better self-care.
Right. It's such uncertain times, and we are all coping in different ways.
Yes.
And I definitely want to get all of your perspectives on different ways that we can cope better. But, you know, we all scroll through Facebook and we see everyone talking about how they're gaining their COVID-19 and they're using, you know, they're eating, and, you know, it's just easy. You're here, you're not going to work where you get up and have breakfast, pack a snack, pack a lunch, you know, I'm going to be healthy. You thinking that you're home, and it's easy when you're fixing lunch for the kids or you're fixing snacks for the kids, you eat a little here, a little there, and essentially you're coping with food. And I wanted to talk to you, Casey, about this, because I know you've talked a lot about, you know, using food as a coping mechanism and how there's other ways to do that and healthier ways. So can you speak on that?
Sure, absolutely. So we know how food affects the way we feel. We know that we can eat really high quality, dense foods, and we can feel calm, we can feel energetic, you know, we can have better focus, or we can eat foods that, you know, bring inflammation and that make us feel weighted down, that can actually increase our anxiety and, you know, increase our malaise. So we're just not going to feel well. So if we make best choices instead of, you know, those better choices, then we'll be able to feel the way that we need to feel to get through this, to power through. So right now we have so many different things that are impacting our food choices, all right? So we can't really get to the store. We have limited selections. We have our family preferences. Our economic status might be playing a role in the food choices. So I think instead of focusing on, putting a lot of stress on everything that you are eating, just maybe focusing on the habits, that's probably a little bit more important. So food is the easiest and the cheapest coping tool that we have aside from exercise, but it's so easy to go to the cupboard and just grab something when we're feeling stress and anxiety and even bored. So some of the things that I talk about, when we're dealing with emotional eating, some of my best strategies are learn your triggers. So if you have a trigger of, something on Facebook or the news, or if it's maybe getting into some sort of a tip with your spouse or your children, just identify what those are and then learn distraction techniques. So don't go for the food, either turn off the news or go outside, take a walk, drink water, work out, watch TV, do something, anything other than just grabbing food. And another big part is don't skip meals. This is where people get into a lot of trouble. So even though we're home, I think the misconception is that we're not busy. I've been busier now than I have been in months. So it's just stuff is constantly coming at you. You're still trying to manage your business. You're still trying to manage clients and, homeschooling your children. So it's easy to miss food and miss meals, but you can't do that because we end up at the end of the day starving and we end up just grabbing everything we can that's in sight like gremlins, right? And that's the worst thing that we could possibly do. So it's really hard on our digestive system. We go to bed with this huge tummy full of food. We don't process it. We're not digesting. That will really interfere with our circadian rhythm. So that's one of the worst things that you can do. Another tip would be don't veg out and snack, late at night, but don't just sit there around the TV or eating. Make sure that you're mindfully eating, and that brings me to something else that's super important. I think as a society, we've kind of gotten away from the importance of food, and we kind of treat it as this inconvenience, this thing that we just have to do because we have this urge to eat and we know that we need it, but we're not really honoring our meals or honoring our food. So if we would learn to do that, and this is a perfect time to do it, to sit down and step away from our computer, sit down and not watch TV and just really be in the presence of our food and honor what it's doing for our bodies, we would get back to a healthier relationship with food and stop treating it as this chore that we loathe doing. We would learn to cook meals. We would care more about where our food came from and how it was grown and how we were preparing it and how that was feeding life into our children. So those are some tips that I have on how we can try to get away from using food as a coping mechanism. So we have to just learn to listen to our bodies and listen to that instead of trying to silence those, those cues of like, I'm anxious or I'm fearful, or, let's figure out what that is, listen to it and really try to honor it without food.
Oh my gosh, Casey, that's so resonating. I mean, anyone else playing through yesterday, I'm like, so I made lunch for the kids, didn't make it for myself, snacked on a few pieces, and then went to continue working. And then I realized, and later I'm like grabbing chips or doing this. And I know for me, I love food. And my husband and I laugh is we have different opinions. I live to eat and he eats to live. He could stand over the sink and have a sandwich and be done and good. If I don't sit down with a meal, and usually I have to have, thanks to my mother, the meat, the protein, the vegetable, and the carb to have a complete meal. But I don't sit down and enjoy that. I don't feel like I ate. So then I'll eat more. Even if I snacked all day, or you had a meal sitting, you have to really, and I love that, sitting down and enjoying that. Chelsea, I wanted to ask you, she talked about, kind of knowing your cues and what you can do to change that. What are some healthy habits that you would offer some people to maybe if they are usually, you have that trigger, you would go eat, maybe what we can replace it with?
Yeah, I think oftentimes people try to numb out by snacking. You don't want to sit with what you're uncomfortable with. Maybe you're uncomfortable with being fearful or anxiety, and you don't even want to be in that feeling. So you snack to kind of numb out. So I talk about it all the time in my yoga classes too. We use yoga as a practice to kind of sit with what's uncomfortable. You sit with a yoga pose that hurts and you want to get out so bad. So it kind of almost trains your body. It's a practice to be able to then, when you're feeling anxious, to sit with that and be uncomfortable and to just be present. So I'd say one thing is to just, find a daily practice to be present. Whether it's on a yoga mat, doesn't necessarily have to be on a yoga mat. You could be on your recliner and just be present with your breath, and that's meditation. So it's about, finding those little things that help you get more in the moment and less numbing out with alcohol and food that's going to make you feel way worse at the end of the day.
Yeah, you are so right. And just being in that right state of mind. And I know, Dr. Laura, you and I talked about this yesterday. Can you give us some kind of cues, or maybe even touch on some Freudian principles that can put us into the right frame of mind to be able to do this?
Yeah. So first of all, I think the scientist in me always focuses on, we have to understand the physiology of what happens with fear and anxiety. And so, the brain is designed to protect us. The brain is always vigilant about the environment. The brain is immediate and unconsciously sets off our fight or flight or freeze response. And that's, that sits in the little amygdala of the brain. And it's designed to be protective. But what the brain is craving is a story from us to calm ourselves down, or to say this is truly an emergency and here's what we need to do. So it's as primitive as that. It's that primitive part of our brain. But what ends up happening is, if we allow just the physiological reactive portion of our brain to take hold, we find ourselves sitting in a place of dread and fear and anxiety, and the heart rate is up and the blood pressure is up and the adrenaline is circulating and the cortisol is circulating, because the body is preparing itself to do something. It's our responsibility to be aware of that within our body, to be able to send the signal to, yes, in fact, we do need to be in a heightened state of alert, or in this situation, no, we need to turn that volume down, because this is not a sprint, this is a marathon. The fear and anxiety we're experiencing is going to be over a protracted period of time, and we have to be able to tell our brain a story to calm itself down. And so how we do that is a couple of important things. I think the first strategy is to label it. So I loved what you were talking about before, when talking about food and navigating your way through food, is to label it. Like, what are you feeling? So during these unprecedented times, people can be feeling anything from fear and anxiety to grief, to depression, to boredom, to all of that. But we can't cope until we label it. And our brain is looking for a label. So once we say to ourselves, okay, this is something I'm frightened of, here's what I'm worried is going to happen, then the intellectual part of our brain can take over. And once we engage that part of our brain, now we have some sense of control, because the brain is going to automatically navigate to the what ifs and the oh my gods and the negative images. Our challenge is to find the balancing act of saying, yes, this is scary, this is dangerous, this is potentially serious, but there's also potential positive outcomes. We are resilient human beings. There are things that we can do. The brain needs us to keep things in balance, in a homeostasis state. And so one of the things that I know you and I talked about yesterday, Stephanie, was, in order to do that, we have to almost derail that intellectual prefrontal cortex of our brain, which is the one doing the scanning and the oh my gods and the what ifs. And in order to do that, there are strategies to be able to tap into a different area of our brain, which sits right below our conscious awareness, which is the area of the brain that taps into our imagination, our creativity, and our innovation. So you might be listening to that and thinking, well, I'm scared and I'm anxious and I'm overwhelmed. Why do I need to be creative? But our resilience, our ability to problem solve and to harness our coping strategies comes from that creative, innovative, imaginative portion of our brain. So we want to utilize that. And so I know the experts here who do yoga can certainly relate to this. One of the little techniques that I use a lot in therapy is to help people do two things to engage that part of their brain. One is to focus on breathing. And again, I know that I'm singing to the choir here with the ladies who are focused on health and wellness and yoga practices, because breathing is the only way, proper breathing is the only way that we can tap into the parasympathetic response in the body. So we want to be horizontal breathers. We need to be breathing from our diaphragm, but typically in general, we're much more vertical breathers. So you know that feeling like where the chest's going up and down, you can feel the tension in your shoulders. We do that naturally. And under periods of stress and anxiety, we do that even more, and we're not aware of it. So by the end of the day, we're feeling exhausted, we're feeling overwhelmed. The stress hormones are floating because we simply didn't practice good breathing. We didn't pay attention to our breathing. So any exercises, whether it's utilizing the yoga or simply practicing for yourself, how to make sure that you are breathing from your diaphragm, that it's long, slow inhalation and exhalation, reminding yourself that every time you do that, you are tapping into the body's natural tendency to reduce the stress hormones. So that's important. And the second thing is to really be able to tap into that part of our brain that is imaginative. We have to turn off our thinking part of our brain, the one that's spinning like a loop constantly all day long. And in order to do that, we need to be peripheral viewers. So we need to tap into the ability to see things in our peripheral vision. So one little technique that I ask people to do is to focus on an object that's at least 8 feet away from them. Hold the gaze on that object for the count of 30 seconds. And while you're holding the gaze on that object is to be able to then expand your vision to start seeing things to the top and the bottom of that image and to the left and the right of that image. And as we do that, within 30 seconds of holding that gaze and allowing ourselves to activate our peripheral visual field, the alpha waves of the brain become engaged. So why do we care about the alpha waves of the brain? Well, when the alpha waves of the brain are engaged, it allows us to get into that deep, meditative, imaginative portion of our brain that allows us to tap into our problem solving and our resilience. So I would say those are some of the things, the strategies that we need to do to take ourselves out of the state of constant fight or flight or freeze and into a more resilient, long-term, better coping strategy.
Yeah, to have a action plan like that, people talk about it, like tap into that brain and be, imaginative and that kind of stuff. Well, how do you do that? So to just take those 30 seconds, and I know I did it yesterday and you felt different, you feel better. And it can be meditation, it can be anything, but those 30 seconds, even, sending my kids away to the other room to play for, and you get those 30 seconds and you can have the moment to just take a deep breath and really breathe and not breathe so hard like I was in the beginning, to, hyperventilate and feel like you're just going to pass out. And sometimes that's how you feel in that moment anyway. Mm-hmm. But to really take that moment and focus on yourself, because I know it's hard. Go ahead.
I was just going to add to that because you're absolutely right. But this is a strategy that our professional athletes use where the good ones that can say, I see the whole field. And it's as if everything goes in slow motion. So I can scan where the ball is going, where I'm going in relationship to the goalpost. Because once they practice this technique, it slows time down in the brain. So you have really good clarity. And then that, of course, increases your performance. So, again, it's one of those things that we know has great power because it's the part of the brain that is underutilized. And now more than ever, we really need to tap into that.
Yes, for sure. So here we are, we're, going to tap into the right part of our brain, have the good clarity. It's a good action plan to continue with. And I always like some good, firm plans to make sure. So Casey, I want to ask you, so we are doing this on the mental state, we're working on ourselves this way. And we're coming to the time, and we've been now, this is our 4th week here in South Carolina, at least in our, social distancing, staying home. Now we even have firmer stay-at-home orders. I know it's time for me to start restocking some of my goods that I have here in the house. What are some of the better food choices or best food choices, as you put it, to stock ourselves? We all know fruits and vegetables, obviously. But if there's other things that we can make better choices to especially boost our immune system.
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's a question that everybody is asking me every day. And so I do want to emphasize, do not get too stuck on good foods versus bad foods, because for one, you're putting the emphasis on that bad food, the forbidden food, and that's just going to tempt you even more. So don't label the foods good or bad. Foods are just foods and they can be eaten in moderation. If you have a slip up, please try not to be too hard on yourself. That will lead to more emotional eating. But some of the foods that we are eating to stay healthy are living foods. So ferments are really important. And this is something I think a lot of people kind of stay away from. So a lot of people like kombucha, but many people don't like, fermented vegetables or, kimchi or sauerkraut, and it's hard to get your kids to eat them. But what you're not realizing is all you have to do is have even a teaspoon or a tablespoon of the juice, and you're still getting the benefits of eating these foods. And so what we're doing is we're really trying to feed our microbiome right now. We're trying to feed all those gut bugs that are going to keep us, healthy, and they're, reducing the inflammation in the gut, which is reducing the inflammation in the brain. And so that's something we really want to focus on. Fermented foods every single day, even in small increments. So we can take probiotics, but these foods are really where you're going to get that benefit from. So any of those foods that you can incorporate when you're, out at the grocery store, you want to look for the ones that don't have added preservatives. Bubby's is one that I use of sauerkraut, and then any type of kombucha or kefir water, just look for the ones that have a lower sugar content. Then obviously you can make those yourself. Then we're focusing on, high quality protein. So we got to have those amino acids that are easy to digest and break down, because we need our liver to be functioning really well right now. We need to be able to continue to detox every single day as we're going through something like this, especially when we're in closed environments in our home and we're in, constant contact with whatever chemicals could be coming from our walls and our carpets, and there's pollen. So we really need our organs to function very well. And we're using, if we have a citrus fruit, we scrape out the inside of the rind, because that's where the highest content of these antioxidants is found. And so those are going to scavenge these free radicals that are all throughout our body at any point, creating waste or coming from cellular waste. So we want to have lots of that. You can even just scrape those into a juice or a smoothie or something, because they're a little bit bitter, so they may not taste well. And then just obviously focusing on rainbow color foods. So more vegetables than fruits. We want to have high fiber in our diet. Of foods that are supporting the adrenals, really, really important right now. So those are going to be foods that have a proper ratio of minerals and electrolytes. So a coconut water with bananas and spinach, cucumbers, avocado, and lime, things like that. And I have some downloads that I can send to you guys, or you can go to my website and get this, so you can see a whole list of adrenal supporting foods. So we need to support our adrenals more than anything right now, kind of touching on what Dr. Lori was talking about. And then, if you can find anything, any type of microgreens, we're using powder just because I had some and it's kind of hard to find right now, but microgreens, and we have mushroom complex. So any of those things are going to give you that added benefit of food, in small doses that you can get. You can add it to a juice or smoothie, or just stir it in a little bit of water or something. Any of those things are going to, pack a huge and powerful punch. But probably the most important thing, and you may not have thought about this before, so 15 to 20 different types of vegetables a day. And you may not, Stephanie, I saw your face. That's the reaction I get when I tell people that. It's like, how do I do that? So this is how you do it. And the benefit I'll explain. You go to the store and you get 15 to 20 different types of vegetables. You take them home, you clean them, you chop them all up, and then you portion them in really small sizes. So it's very cost effective. You don't have to have a lot every day, maybe 1 ounce to 2 ounces. You could put them in soups and stews, you could put them in a smoothie. It doesn't really matter how you get them in. The benefit is that you're feeding all those gut bugs again. Okay, so you're reducing the possibility that you're going to have, reactions to food. So it's called increasing your oral tolerance. But you're feeding all this bacteria that you may otherwise be starving. And so you're supposed to get these vegetables and fruits that you don't normally like or wouldn't really reach for first, because we're feeding all different types of, bugs in our microbiome. So you need to have a wide variety. And that's something that I think everybody should do. It's probably the easiest and cheapest thing that we can do to support our immune system.
Well, I'm just blown away. I don't even know what to say.
I'm trying to count 15 of them that I know.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, how many vegetables? I was like, I got carrots, celery, zucchini in my fridge. I was like, I am doing not good at all in that category.
You're doing great, but we could add more.
Right.
We can always do better.
So later when I'm doing my grocery list, I'm going to be on your website, or if you can list them all out for me, that'd be great.
Yeah, it's just a variety. So look for all different types. And it's probably the benefit is getting the ones that you normally wouldn't be eating, that you normally really don't gravitate toward, because those foods are feeding some beneficial bacteria in your gut. And we're not traveling, so we're not being exposed to lots of different types of foods right now. So we're feeding one type of bacteria while we're starving another. So that can end up leading to overgrowth of some of the bad bacteria that we really want to keep at bay right now.
Interesting.
Wow, that's great. Well, Christy, I mean, I'm going to throw it to you for a second, because I know that you work hard to build your family's immune system on an everyday basis. So I wanted to see if you had any tips that we can, share and gravitate and hold on to.
Sure. I've heard so many great things today. So thank you to all of you. I've learned so much. But yeah, I mean, like everyone else, we want to keep our family as healthy as possible. And, one of the things we do to build our immune system is by reducing inflammation. Like Casey said, we try to eliminate sugars and processed foods as much as possible. I mean, it's, progress, not perfection, especially during these times. But, just by trying to keep them out of the house, the kids don't want to grab them and sneak into the pantry like mine like to do. But one of the things with food is smoothies. I mean, we're doing a smoothie every day because it's easy to hide vegetables for the picky eaters too, but also we let the kids make them. So they have their hands in it and they want to drink it if they made it. We'll just say, okay, pick 2 vegetables and 2 fruits and mix it all together. So that makes it fun for them. And you can, kind of mask things with pineapples or bananas, things that have stronger taste. But we also, are keeping our daily supplements and trying not to forget to get them in, especially right now, with our D3 and zinc, probiotics, like Casey talked about with fermented foods. And another thing is just being outside, which, we've been very, very blessed with our weather lately. That's been great. So we've been outside every day, playing, bike rides, walks, yard work, little chores. But it's been great to get out and get some sunshine. And one of the things that Lori was talking about, we can't control what's going on, but we can control how we react to it. And I think that's one of the hardest things for me is I'm, always constantly thinking about our physical well-being, get in our supplements, eat our healthy food, keep our bodies healthy and strong, but you don't always think of the mind part of it, that affects your health as well. So we have been trying to start our day with sitting at the table, having our quiet time of gratefulness, talking about what we're grateful for. And the kids started saying that they wanted to rotate a Bible verse. So each morning, one of them gets to choose who does the Bible verse and our little, prayer to start us off for the day. And we talk about what we're grateful for. And I feel like that's has been helpful for us.
Beautiful.
Starting our day on a positive note, because it is hard. Yeah. I mean, it's hard. Everyone is struggling right now, whether you're, exactly, homeschooling or working or both or whatever from home. It's hard to remember those things, but, we really do try to find the positives throughout our day, and it's helped us.
No, I mean, I believe, I laughed because this morning I'm like, you have to pick your right mug. So you have, you start each day with a grateful heart. And I see that. And I keep this mug out all day because you do. I mean, it's in a time like this and you're trying to make sure that they are staying healthy, that they're eating the right foods, that they're doing their homework, that you're getting your work done. I mean, it starts piling up. And so you open your eyes in the morning and it can be daunting. It's like the moment you get home from the grocery store and you're sitting in your driveway and you just think, if I just sit here long enough, will my groceries make it inside and get put away and dinner started? Like, it's that moment, like, where everything has to start and it's all on you to get it going. Yeah. So to kind of calm yourself in that mind and get your action plan set in place, you can kind of start your day and get going in the right form of mind. Mm-hmm. So we talked about food and what we need to do on that side and, everything, but let's kind of turn a little bit to exercise. Chelsea, I wanted to kind of talk to you a little bit because yoga can be scary, I would think, to some people. Some people like myself who, when I bend over, I don't quite make it to my toes and I feel bad. And I know stretching makes a lot of everything work together. And so where can we even start if we're very new to yoga or even any exercise in that manner? Because I always worry, I am a roller coaster exerciser, I guess you would say. And I have lower back problems. And sometimes it scares me to start working out because I'm worried the soreness and maybe something I do, especially when you're doing it home by yourself, that I'm going to cause more harm than help. So how can you help us through that?
Yeah, I mean, I get that all the time from people. They're like, oh, I can't do yoga. I can't touch my toes. I cannot tell you how many times I've heard people say that to me. And for me, It's not about fancy poses at all. It's about moving your body, getting those endorphins, feeling good, being present. So I'd say the first step is to find an instructor that resonates. So whether it's on YouTube, I've been making 30-minute videos, 10-minute videos that people can go to. Everything from, just a simple meditation. There's something called yoga nidra, where you're literally just laying there for an hour.
Sign me up.
Yeah.
I can do that.
It's just a guided yoga class. So you're guiding your body through just being aware of different parts, from your toes to the top of your head. And what's interesting is 1 hour of yoga nidra is equivalent to 4 hours of deep rest. So there are so many benefits to even just laying there, but but I'd say in general, if someone's looking to start with yoga, maybe start with a gentle yoga class or a yin yoga class, because those tend to avoid any kind of like planks or really powerful poses. And then from there, work up to a vinyasa class, which tends to be a little more heating on the body and more strengthening. So to just kind of, start small, work your way up. Don't be so hard on yourself. It's not about looking like a pretzel. It's not about putting your leg behind your head. I've been teaching for 15 years and it's not about that. It's just about honoring your body, getting more present, and just start where you can.
Well, I did yesterday. I was just all day. I'm like, I need to work out. And I didn't get up and do it right away. And I know I could feel my anxiety levels rising. And by 4:45, I was like, I can't, I have to do something. And so actually I logged on to Chelsea's YouTube channel and I did a 16-minute bar class with her and then a 10-minute yoga, cardio intense. I was dripping in sweat, but I felt so much better afterwards. So I can attest to the fact that just getting it in, and even those small doses, I always say, I don't have time, but the 10 minutes was so great. And I know, we talked about this a little bit, but this is something you could truly involve your kids in, right?
Yes, 100%. My kids love my little 2-year-old. She's always like, I want to play yoga. And, and having them see you do it helps them, bring those habits into their own lives and they get used to seeing it and it's easier for them too. But being with kids all day long makes you go crazy. I don't know about you guys, but it makes me go a little crazy. So having that movement, we even have a rebounder here that we can bounce on, a little trampoline, and just jumping up and down, get your lymphatic system going, get those endorphin rush, makes you feel better. So run around the backyard with the kids and have 10 minutes of that instead of scrolling on your phone, and you will feel 1,000 times better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and we actually have a comment on Facebook from Amy, and she was saying that with all this mess, she's like, her kids actually have been doing short-led, kid-friendly meditations, and it's something that they love and they keep wanting to do it. And she says it definitely kind of centers them. So it's definitely resonating with other people, that are doing this, and it's working in their lives. But here we are, we're trying to be healthy and do our meditation, and but we're still in a small area. No matter how big your home can be or small, you still feel like the walls might be moving in closer and closer, and you're here with your kids and your spouse and other family members that might be living with you in close quarters. And everyone says you love your kids and you love your family and you want to spend as much time with them, but maybe not where you're working, where you're teaching, where you're loving, where you're cooking, where you're cleaning, where you're disciplining, and the list goes on. What are some ways that maybe we can cope with that overwhelm? Like, Dr. Lori, I'm looking at you for this one because I want to know, the overwhelm and frustration that maybe, I'm asking for a friend here. How can we cope with that?
And I heard it that way. Yeah, so it's a great question. And, I don't have a brilliant answer that's a one size fits all, but I think the core principles of remembering we like structure, even though we say we don't. We like routine, even though we say we don't. And we have to honor the fact that we need boundaries. And so when everybody is in everybody's space and you're eating, and I love the idea of, when you talked about honoring food and being present for a meal, as opposed to grabbing and eating in front of the TV where we're mixing up activities. I think that same principle could apply to everything we're doing. So if the boundaries set to the extent that we can is to say, okay, for these 2 hours, this is work time. And what do we do during work time? What do kids do during their school time? What do we do during play time? What do we do for family time, for exercise time, for intimate time? All of those things really need to be carved out and honored by everybody under that same roof, because otherwise the overwhelm comes from feeling like we don't have control even hour by hour, minute by minute. And then there's no way for us to be able to stay focused and grounded. And again, what we're talking about today, be able to take good care of ourselves. Because self-care, in addition to nutrition and good sleep and good mental care, is also about making sure that we take time for ourselves. That's a hard enough, heavy enough lift, even under the best of times. And now where it's like, I can't even go into the bathroom without somebody knocking on the door and going, hello, what are you doing in there? We need to now more than ever carve out that time to say, I just need 5 minutes for myself, and then use those 5 minutes in a very strategic way. So I think honoring our boundaries as if our life depends on it, because again, for a protracted period of time, we are going to be doing one size fits all underneath our household. Under that roof, everything is happening. And so I think setting those boundaries and honoring them and having everybody in the household honor them is really an important step.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like fiercely writing all of these notes down. You have no idea, so that I can utilize them in my life and try to put some of these notes out to the people who are viewing and that are going to be reviewing this, because this has been incredible so far. And I mean, we're coming to an end here, and I'm like overwhelmed with thank you for all of you, because these are tips that are invaluable to anybody, everyone. And we talked about this. I was like, these are all tips to use, whether we're in a pandemic, whether we're in an isolation situation. I mean, there's always going to be uncertainty in our lives that are going to throw us upside down. And it's something that we need to be able to learn how to cope with. And this is a great time to learn how to cope with it, because you actually don't have as many outside factors. You're here and you can be centered with yourself. So with the uncertainty world, without the pandemic happening, like I wanted to give you guys all a chance to give one last, nugget of advice to help us build resiliency and to keep us grounded in this stage of our lives. So Casey, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. I guess basically try to keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate the eating process. You don't have to make these gourmet meals every single day. Because I think that brings more stress, doesn't it? So really, you just need to make sure that you are eating, hydrating, sleeping, because that's super important for every single process in our body, our detoxification, our hormones, just our metabolism. So just try to incorporate simple foods, even if it's just grabbing, some nuts and a piece of fruit or a piece of vegetable. Just try to have those things readily available, but to keep it really simple. And just when you're going to reach for something, think about how that's actually going to make you feel. I'm not talking about in your body, I'm talking about in your mind. And is it going to bring more stress, more anxiety? So in other words, are you feeding inflammation? Or are you trying to dispel inflammation? So keep it really simple, but keep those things in mind. And I do have some free resources over on my website and my Facebook page. There are a couple links, and I have a free webinar if you want to pop over and check that out. It's about how to maximize your kids' diet, and it's really focused on picky eating. And so there's a nutrition assessment at the end of that. And then there are a list of recipes that you can follow, some really fun things that are kid approved because we use them all in our house. So a couple different things. There's also a kids packet if you want to download and print that out of, there's a bingo game that I use with my kids and Kids Thrive Tribe, and just some fun, safe, healthy activities that the whole family can do, can get the whole family involved. And if your kids do that, I'll give them a free pass to go to Fun Warehouse whenever we get back into it. So just try to keep things simple, try to keep things lighthearted and fun, and get everyone involved. I guess that would be my simple advice.
Yeah, that's great. I know I feel so good about myself when I cook a meal that everybody eats.
Mm-hmm.
And you sit down and you're like, oh, everyone's eating this. My 6-year-old that doesn't like barely any meat, and my 2-year-old who wants to just get up and run around. Like if everyone sits down and eats it, and it just makes you feel good. So honoring that food and making sure that we can maximize our diet is great.
And keeping
Christy?
it positive, never negative. Just always keep it positive. Okay. Yeah.
It can be challenging. Christy, do you have some advice?
Really, a lot of what Casey said. I mean, just making the healthiest food choices you can for yourself and your family, but not stressing out over it. You know, snacks are okay. And getting the kids involved as much as possible is really what's working well for us. You know, helping them and letting them make choices. Getting outside and moving as a family, whether it's basketball in the driveway or, you know, quick walk around the block, just getting out and finding the positives throughout the day. It's hard, but, you know, just stopping, and especially when you just can get bogged down with all the negative, with all the stress, with all the worry, just stopping and just saying, hey, you know, what are you positive for today? And it's funny because, you know, some of the things the kids will find through their day that are positive really, like, you know, can touch your heart, and you're like, wow, okay, I didn't even know that you noticed that, or that you're grateful for that. So it's pretty cool.
That's great. Chelsea, how about you? A little bit of last minute advice?
Yeah, I guess if I could give 4 top tips, it would be find time to move. You know, movement shifts energy, so it's going to make you feel better. Practice deep breathing, like Dr. Lori was saying. And to add to that a little bit too, if you watch a baby or even an animal breathe, they breathe from their belly because they're so present, right? So practice those deep belly breaths. 3 would be avoid numbing out. So find those things that kind of cause you to numb out, snacking, alcohol, whatever it is, and try to just put those to the side, whether it's for 1 week, maybe no snacking in front of the TV, or 1 week of no wine at night. I know it's hard, but, and 4, have a sense of humor. I think during serious times, if we find a way to laugh, laughter is so good for your soul, whether it's starting a TikTok or sending funny memes to your friends, or, you know, whatever it is, to laugh and have fun, and to not feel like you have to do everything perfect and not take yourself so seriously all the time. So those would be my
follow Chelsea on TikTok. She's TikTok famous with her 20 followers. And they're good. And she's right. It does make you laugh hysterically. It helps, you know, all things. All right, Dr. Lori, bring it home with some good advice here.
Well, first of all, I love you ladies. I mean, these are fabulous, fabulous tips, and I love your energy, and I'm so happy to have been able to be part of this. I'll just wrap up by, I think, one of the things that Christy said early on about gratitude. Gratitude is absolutely a game changer in all times of our life, but particularly under periods of stress. Gratitude has that amazing, heavy power of keeping us focused in the present. And we all know that our anxiety and our fear lives in the future, the place where we have no control. And depression and regret lives in our past as we play over things. But gratitude focuses us in this moment. And our power sits in this moment. And remembering that gratitude isn't just about the Pollyanna, everything's going to be great, have an attitude of gratitude and be positive, because I think it's important that we honor and we respect the fact that we also have negative feelings, and they're okay too. You know, I'm doing a lot of work with healthcare providers right now, and fear is true, and the consequences and the worry centered around this virus are real. And so gratitude doesn't just take that away and say, okay, don't focus on that. Let's think about the positive. Gratitude focuses on what am I feeling and what do I have control of in this moment. And when we can harness that power, we can navigate our way through just about anything.
Yeah, I mean, so true. I mean, and just in the gratitude side, and my advice, I mean, which I always say this is, you know, a meeting with extraordinary minds, because I don't include myself because I'm not an expert in any of
that's not true, girlfriend. You have an extraordinary mind and an extraordinary heart, so don't go there.
Oh, I appreciate that. Now, you all can know that after this meeting, she's biased because she is my aunt. But
and even if I wasn't her aunt, I would be saying the same thing.
I'm not her aunt, and I agree.
Thank you. See, it's not a biased response.
Well, I will say is one practice that I try to follow is writing down as simple as your 10 gratitudes for the day. Because I mean, and it's not, I'm grateful for my family, my kids, it's literally from that day, specific small things. Like my kids played together for 1 hour today and didn't fight. I got them to eat 3 carrots. I got, these small little steps that can really, you can look back on and say, it was a great day. So you can finish off and think like you can go to sleep happy about your day, no matter what any of those other negativities might have happened. It can center yourself back to that gratitude.
Yeah.
So I appreciate all you guys. And I want to make sure everybody has your contact information so that they can reach out if they need to use you for your in your professional state or just ask you some follow-up questions and all this. Casey, I know you mentioned your website. So if you want to give it right here, and then we will link it all in the comments afterwards. But if you want to say your website that they can reach you on.
Sure. And you could go over to my Facebook page. It's just Casey Bohardt, BCHP, Holistic Family Wellness, I think is what I have it under. And my website is just holisticfamilywellness.net. Sorry, I have a creeper coming in.
Oh no, I see. We're getting through this just without all of our kids. Chelsea, where can people find you?
Sure. My website is a great space to go to. It's sea-yoga.com. I'm also on all the social media channels and offer free yoga and fitness classes daily on YouTube. And you can find my YouTube channel just by looking up my name, Chelsea Novacell.
Fantastic. And Dr. Lori, where can we find you?
So my website is Dr. Lori, but doctor spelled out, drlori.net. And you can, if you sign up for our newsletter, you can download a free self-care handbook. And I'm also over on YouTube under Dr. Lori Speaks. And there's free YouTube videos there for everybody to look at ways to manage anxiety and stress. And we're trying to keep updated on some COVID information. And I'm on several of the other social media platforms under Dr. Lori.
All right, well, ladies, I'd like to say thank you so much to all of you for joining us. I know that you're all very busy. I mean, like we said, like we're busier now than we've ever been because people are reaching out and asking questions, and you're doing videos for people, working with people. So I really appreciate all that you do to help the individuals in our community. And your advice has been, I mean, I can't even thank you enough. And with that, teeing it up, I want to say I really appreciate everyone that's logging on, that's been watching these. I hope that these are informative for you and that we are giving you a place to come to get an expert advice while you're at home dealing with things. I mean, we've covered a lot of topics, but if there's a topic you'd like us to cover, just comment below because we're kind of working through this and I want to make sure that we get topics that are resonating with people. Our next meeting with Extraordinary Minds is this Thursday at 9:10 right here on our Facebook page. And we are going to be speaking with people from the front lines. We're going to be talking with people from essential businesses. I'm really excited to get their take on this and really understand why, like the importance of staying home is so important, but people know it's important, but from their side where they don't have the luxury of staying home and they have to be out there putting their lives at risk to keep us safe. So we have a captain from the Myrtle Beach Police Department joining us. We have a doctor joining us, a pharmacist, and then I'm still confirming, but we should have someone in the retail space because these are all people that we are dependent on. And I want them to be able to speak their stories and tell you why they're so appreciative of you doing your part and staying home and keeping them safe as well and taking their lives and their family in consideration when you're doing your day-to-day. So thank you so much. We really appreciate everyone logging on. And until next time, we wanted to say stay safe and we'll see you next time right here from your home. Have a great day, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.